Good morning, afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen. All in crypto here, and welcome back, guys, for another daily cryptocurrency market update. As always, we have a jam-packed update lined up for you. We are going to be diving into a number of things. We're going to be looking at a recent clip of Cathie D. Wood, obviously the founder, CTO, and CEO, or CIO, I should say, rather than CTO. She's not the chief technical officer, she's the chief investment officer of ARK Invest, talking about Bitcoin, why she thinks it's going to go parabolic, and why she can see a emerging or a coming together of AI with the likes of Bitcoin and this technology more broadly. So we are going to start the video off there. We like to play a clip to kind of get people fired up. I must say that ARK's ETFs have not done a great deal for investors. Okay, they have been pretty bad. In my opinion, actually, Cathie Wood, and she may be very right eventually, has not been a brilliant sign of how to invest in the markets. You know, her ETFs have done historically pretty bad and cost investors quite a lot of money. Now, that's not to say that one day, and I think generally she's quite right on things, she's just maybe perhaps early, and there's an expense that comes with that. But we will be playing that clip. Then we'll be going on to the Bitcoin charts. We're going to be looking a little bit at the week ahead, which we'll cover probably in more detail tomorrow. You are going to have CPI coming in next week. And then the following week, you are going to have a rate decision. We know that rate decisions have massively implemented or affected the markets, I should say, given the liquidity constraints that they have. And markets are forward looking, and they're constantly adjusting for macro drivers like rate hikes. And then we're going to finish the video off with a little bit of Ripple news. Ripple's CLO calls SEC's latest filing hypocritical. So the SEC have recently filed again in the Ripple case. The Ripple case, I think, is quite important for crypto generally, as they are going to... A win for Ripple generally is a win for the entire industry. So let's get into it all, guys, as we've got a lot to go over. Let's start things off with a clip of Cathie Wood explaining why she thinks Bitcoin could go parabolic and the kind of S-curves and the emergings of the technologies that are around today, the kind of advancements in technologies that are around today.
Tuned into this idea of convergence. It's a part of our DNA. And I don't think most of the asset management world understands how powerful the convergences are going to be between and among the technologies that are evolving today. And the way I like to describe why they're going to be so powerful, the convergences, is we're looking at S curves. So new technologies, you know, they start out slowly and then they gain momentum, and you end up into the steep part of this S curve. Well, I think we are at a very similar point in both Bitcoin and AI. They're both moving into the steep part of the S curve. So you have S curves feeding S curves, creating opportunities for explosive growth potentials. Aha moments when we're talking about convergences. I actually had an aha moments around our first Bitcoin brainstorm as well. I guess what has hit me here, it's something Paul said at the end here, we're going to see I think you said clash, or the collision between, you know, the infinity associated with AI and the scarcity associated with Bitcoin. And so what does that mean? And here's where I come back to my economic roots, which is, wow, you could have a parabolic move in the price of Bitcoin. And I think that will happen. I mean, we're on record saying that. But it also brings me back to, okay, global monetary system, means of exchange, unit of account. And so I know we're going to have one of these brainstorms with Art Laffer, and he's going to be poking at all of this and talking about the quantity rule versus the price rule, and, you know, and really wanting to understand the cryptography and everything. So I'm really happy we're doing these brainstorms.
Very interesting. I happen to think that AI is going to be huge. And I think it could be the narrative that sees the targets that we have for the stock market get filled. You know, and we've really been expecting since the start of the year, the stock market to do exactly what it has done. And I think AI is going to be the narrative that sees us get to new all-time highs for the likes of the S&P. We're very early on the kind of move for the S&P. It's one reason why we're bullish on crypto. And we're seeing Microsoft benefit from it. That hit our target beautifully. It's likely going to go significantly higher in enterprise discovery. Apple will recover. Apple, of course, have had a bit of bad news in regards to China banning them. But there's going to be this, Google, for example. Let's take a look at Alphabet. It is entering the AI space. You've got Meta that's actually doing pretty well. We looked at this as a breakout. AI is going to be a big narrative. Crypto and AI are going to converge together. I very much agree with Kathy Wood. I've been playing around a lot with ChatGPT, and you can, through ChatGPT, code up entire websites. You can get website. You can ask it to code a website up for you. Okay, that's just one example of what this technology can do at the early stage that it's at. Think of what that can do with smart contracts. Think of what it can do when it learns to facilitate blockchain transactions and executions and things like this. It's going to be almost this digital utopia that was perhaps prophesized years ago as a kind of unimaginable reality is coming to a head. So we ultimately stay bullish on the markets, really for a number of reasons, as fundamental and technicals. I am not particularly that bearish on Bitcoin here at all, even in the short term, because it's still adhering to support. September, you are now nearly a third of the way through, and it hasn't been as brutal as everyone had prophesied. We remain long and strong. We remain short-term uncertain, but there's a lot of buying coming in here, and you can see that in regards to the wicks. Right now, you're at a kind of no point of control in regards to which way it goes up or down in the short term meaning a couple of weeks up to a month. Mid to long term, we think that this is now an established uptrend that's going to continue, and altcoins will play catch up eventually. In fact, we do have some altcoins that have done okay this year, others that perhaps haven't done as well, and of course Bitcoin and crypto has generally gone sideways, but Bitcoin and some of our altcoins have done pretty well. So we've really covered a lot of what we think is happening from a technical point of view. Let's look at an event that's happening in the week ahead, and that is CPI coming in on the 13th, which is Wednesday. This is going to be interesting because we've had, and notice how the dollar's been gaining strength on the back end of this, so have yields. Certainly the 2-year, which is a precursor for interest rates, it often leads. But the dollar's now running into what you would class as resistance. Whether it acts as just a short-term resistance or not is still to be seen. Dollar's doing very well. Dollar's really been doing exceedingly well off the back end of inflation fears and a uncertainty in regards to where rates are heading. So inflation's set to come out at 3.6. Since June, where we had 3 print, you had July, which was 3.2, and now there's another jump to 3.6, which is a consensus. TE forecasts are 3.4. This is likely supposed to call into question more rate hikes, although having these been the forecasts, the probabilities of them doing a rate hike on the 20th of September is at a point where it's 92% that they're not going to do one. So this is going to be interesting. I think for markets, they don't like uncertainty. I think technically we looked at a pullback for the stock market. We looked at oil being a bit of an issue in regards to it having now officially broken out, and the dollar being a thorn in our sides. The dollar, typically, the dollar does this, Bitcoin does this. Recently, you've not actually seen that with Bitcoin. It's just done nothing. And I think that's more to do with a lack of interest rather than a relative strength than anything. So we aren't really going to go short term until this breaks. We've looked at a number of scenarios. One sees you do this and then come back down. That would be my most bearish scenario because that would put this target into effect, which would run you down here. And then that would be a deeper, this being a B, this being a C after a 5-wave impulsion. We've looked at a number of things. We don't really want to continue to reiterate the technicals. We cover it day in, day out. But I still don't think the Bitcoin chart looks too bad at all. That's my honest opinion. And I think there's a lot of uncertainty, and I do think generally it will pass, and we'll get more clarity on it as next week rolls around, and then certainly the week following that. Let's finish things off on a little bit of Ripple news. So this is Ripple CLO calls SEC's latest filing hypocritical pivot. He pointed out that Gensler had requested an urgent appeal while simultaneously asserting that crypto regulations and rules were clear and should be adhered to by the industry. There is no other conclusion that you can come to with what the SEC are doing than they are power grabbing and trying to stall this industry, because there are absolutely no clear regulatory guidelines for most of the cryptos that exist out there, perhaps barring Bitcoin, and even then, them not allowing a spot ETF puts it in this kind of grayer area. So let's read this article as it's interesting. Ripple is important and their case to our entire industry. Stuart Aldaltry, Ripple's chief legal officer and general counsel in the SEC versus Ripple Labs case, has characterized the United States Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) latest submission as contradictory shift and contends that it holds little sway. Following the recent filing by the US SEC to reinforce its interlocutory appeal, Stuart Aldaltry, chief legal officer at Ripple, commented on X, referring to the submission as another instance of a hypocritical pivot. Aldaltry highlighted what he sees as Chairman Gary Gensler's inconsistency, manipulative actions, and appetite for expanded regulations. He pointed out that Gensler has requested an urgent appeal while simultaneously asserting that crypto regulations and rules were clear and must be adhered to by the industry. I mean, they're also suing Coinbase right now, and Coinbase filed all their files with them to go public as a company. I'm telling you, these guys are going to win the cases. There's no grounds that they won't. And we're already seeing the signs of that. And actually, when they do, and there's this kind of regulatory clarity that comes as a result of it, and the SEC is backed off, it's full send for the market, guys. Regulations are the only thing stopping everyone from coming out publicly and saying we've been working on blockchain for the past 5 years. They're not doing it now because they don't want to be persecuted. We'll finish reading this. He pointed out that Gensler had requested an urgent appeal while simultaneously so on. Another SEC filing, another hypocritical pivot after years of the chairman saying the rules are clear and must be obeyed. The SEC now cries that the appeal is urgently needed to be resolved. These not illegal problems. Attorney James K. Phillum took a dig at the SEC's ridiculous, ridiculing their newfound concerns for previous jurisdictional resources. He pointed out the SEC's previous attempt to pause all processes in the case. It's just a poor show. Talking about Ripple, they have now required Fortress Trust, which will use Ripple payment tech for Fortress Pay. I actually genuinely think that XRP is going to do very well. I know there's a lot of kind of ridiculous rhetoric around it. However, actually what you'll find is a lot of that rhetoric, there's a seed of truth in it. People just, it's like Chinese whispers, expand on it massively. And actually they are partnered with many, many large institutions, including central banks, and doing a pretty spectacular job of getting their products, getting XRP adopted. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you. I wouldn't expect much over the weekend from a price point of view. We really don't play from a trade point of view on the weekend. I think I've just got one trade, which is just a pain in the arse last week. And it was a very small trade. You know, no big fish here. We're not looking to catch until we see some sort of definitive direction for Bitcoin. That may come. We're a third of the way through September. Things don't look that bad. And on that note, I'm going to love and leave you. Have a smashing Saturday, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.